Welcome everybody to the public portion of the school board meeting for March 31st. I'm Susan Barr, I'm the chair. And we'll begin with a call to order and adoption of the minutes for the February 24th meeting and the March 2nd meeting. Can I have a motion, please? Motion to adopt. Second. Any errors or omissions? Fran?
It's a question. I'm not sure if it's an error or I just didn't have the notes. With respect to the February 24th agenda, when we spoke about cross-boundary enrollment, I just thought that there was a motion to that effect, but here it just said board discussion, and I don't know if anyone recalls different.
Do you have any notes? There was a motion. Are we keeping copies of the videotaping? Maybe could we bring that back next time then and see if there was a motion? No one has a clear. Anyone have a really clear recollection of this? Recall not making a motion. Okay. So then, how about we just pull the February 24th and we'll look at that at the next meeting next month, and just look at the March 2nd minutes then. Does anyone have any issues with the March 2nd minutes? And we'll vote the February 24th minutes next time. Okay. All those in favor of adopting the March 2nd minutes as presented? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So the adoption of the agenda, I believe we have one item to add. Dan?
Yeah, I have an addition under new business relating to playground equipment at Commercial Elementary.
Okay, so number 3, new business clean play equipment. Okay, anything else? Yep.
Okay, on item 4.4, so you guys are the 386 apartment strip. That's already been pre-approved. That one we've already approved a few meetings ago.
We did, the final approval? We did. So we can delete that? And I totally believe you on that. You're graciously, I think, agreeing to go along on that one. Okay, so we can delete that then? 4.4, any other additions or deletions? Okay, all those in favor of the adopted agenda? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, and so report on in-camera meeting. We did have an in-camera meeting, and there's nothing to report out. We'll be continuing our in-camera meeting after the public portion of this meeting. And we'll also proceed to presentations and delegations. Pleased to have some students come. Brady, I said the name right? Gayu, sorry. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome.
Okay, so my name is Sarah Brady,
Caitlin, and Kyle.
and we are students of Isabel. I wrote a letter to you, but my friends and I felt that we had to do something more to bring it to the attention of the student body. We believe we should stick with the status quo option. We need to spend some time working out any problems together. It's too soon to change everything just after move and not giving the street system a chance.
We decided to do the petition to voice our opinion about the possibility of our school closing and becoming a middle school. We made posters of the necessary information and posted them in our hallways at school. Then we made 2 separate petition sheets, one for the grade 8s to 10s and the other for the grades 11 and 12s.
Lots of kids were eager to sign the petition, but others thought there was no way the board would do such a thing. And still others thought it wouldn't affect them. During our petition, we didn't come across anybody that didn't want to ask them anything.
While doing this, we learned how misinformed and uninformed people are. There are many people who knew you were discussing going back to middle schools, but didn't know some of those options involved changing ISL into one. Some didn't even know the board was having a discussion about changing the schools again. We don't think that many students have filled out the discussion paper feedback page, even though they may have strong feelings about keeping things the same. One of those reasons may be it wasn't put in a way that got kids' attention. Even Obama used Facebook.
Along with our petition, and another student of Isabel made Facebook groups. With the Facebook groups combined, we came up with a total of 347 people who joined to keep Isabel the high school. In our petition at Isabel, we were just shy of 300 signatures.
Some of the comments we read online were
Brittany, Isfeld is the best school I've ever been to.
Kristen, I love this school so much. I really want to graduate here with all my friends. I really hope it stays the same.
Brianna, I honestly haven't been to a school as amazing as Isfeld. I would hate to see such an awesome school close down after such a bunch of new students.
Kayla, Isfeld is the place I want to graduate at. I love the teachers since coming to this school. I've been doing way better in school and in life. So please don't take that away from me or the hundreds of other kids.
Today at school, we met with Principal Mr. Village to meet up and practice with our school's Principal Student Advisory Council. There were a group of students ranging from grades 8 to 12 who helped the principal decide and discuss important school issues. We practiced and got their feedback and worked on what they had to tell us. When they were asked what they thought was best for the students, the results were unanimous. They all agreed the best option for us was to keep status quo.
As you can tell, this is just a small representation of how the students feel about the thought of this change to our school and school district. We don't want any more changes. We want a stable education and money to sustain our programs in school. That's why we need to keep things the same.
We thank you for your time and hopefully you seriously consider what we have brought to you.
I am Isfeld, you are Isfeld, we are all Isfeld Heights.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Just like to say that it's I think an extremely important thing that you've done to come and represent the people that you speak for, and I hope that you carry that through your whole life. That's the only way that things ever change or get done is when you speak out, and your silence will not protect you ever. And thank you so much for coming, and we will take a serious look at what you've got to say. And do anyone else have any comments or?
Just to echo those comments and also encourage trustees to tap into MITV episode 13, which tackles a serious subject in a somewhat lighter way, but makes very much a lot of the same points as our guests today.
Anyone else? Thanks. Oh, yeah.
Please, thank you for coming. I know it took a lot for you guys to come here. A lot of adults around, but you presented your stuff very well, and I'm impressed with the work you guys have done. And thank you for that information.
Thanks. Think about being the school trustee when you're 19. Thank you. So you guys are free to stay or go, whatever you like. I'd like you to know that on Thursday night, we're going to be taking an opportunity right here at 7 o'clock to discuss the discussion paper and to talk about some of the feedback that we've got. And so you're more than welcome to come and watch the meeting if you like. I think it's going to be broadcast online as well. We have webcasts, and I've written down your idea about the Facebook group. Lucky for you guys, your superintendent of the district is a computer geek, so you may be able to get some help with that. Thanks. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on now to old business. The first item of business there is from the Community Justice Center Comox Valley Critical Incident Response Protocol. As you recall, we had a copy of the protocol on our agenda last month that looked like this, just to refresh your memories. So just looking for board direction with respect to that, the request was that we become a signatory to that protocol. Anyone wish to speak to that? Yes?
I make the motion that we proceed to the protocol.
Second? Any discussion?
It's an appropriate motion. There are other ministries and the Ministry of Children and Family Development has been approached to participate in this as well, and we'll be having representation. So very appropriate.
Okay. Anyone else? Just a few comments. Just that what the protocol would do would be that the school district as an organization is that we would agree to do things like we may fund education programs, speak out against violent acts, adopt zero tolerance policies, we would receive complaints, impose discipline, organize public discussion. These are all may do, not have to do, but may do. Review our current policies. We would seek advice from experts where it would be appropriate, and support victims with complaints and understanding their options. So I too am in favor of this. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Second related item is that the Comox Valley Community Justice Center has made a financial request of $2,000 to support their witnessing ceremony that they're holding in May, and I'm just looking for board direction with respect to that as well.
So, while arguably it's a small amount of money, we're in the middle of our sort of budget processing, and I'm just wondering about folding that into that discussion. Again, I don't think it's appropriate for us to sort of establish some sort of arbitrary threshold of, everything under $5,000 doesn't matter and everything over does. So given that, I would ask that we fold it into the budget process and have an opportunity then to respond, either in April or May, depending on the time.
Dan?
Just having a bit of a problem with the request, not how much money we've got to start with, but I don't see a budget of how much this is going to cost. Are we picking up the whole bill for this signing ceremony, or any particular portion of it, or is it just they come with this number of $2,000?
No idea.
Okay.
Jazz?
That's my concern is I'm not too sure where we are in the budget process, that 2,000 added up. And by doing this, are we setting precedents that other groups may come up and ask us for financial contributions for other things that we may participate in? So I would rather maybe defer this to the have a budget process to talk about this.
Okay, any other comments? So I think I'm hearing someone,
Move to refer to the budget process.
second? Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay, thank you. Next, item number 2 under old business is the BC Climate Action Charter. As I understand it, we need to sign the charter this evening, or we won't get some rebates that may be coming to us. So Chuck, do you want to speak to this?
Climate Action Charter is simply stated as board, it's signed by the board, it's recognized by the board that the use of fossil fuels is that's the documentation they have provided as well. By signing it, that will ensure that we receive back the amount of carbon tax that we pay on natural gas, right now, it's estimated about $1,000 a year.
Okay, thanks. Anyone have any questions with respect to this? Tom?
Are we looking for a motion tonight that we sign this documentation?
Absolutely,
I
yes.
make a motion that we do sign this documentation.
Second? Okay, Tom?
I'm in favor of the motion. Just a question around the rebate. Is that earmarked for something in particular that's sort of linked to this issue, or does it just fall back into general revenue?
It comes back for this, it's not directed to any special area.
So I guess again, not to have no disagreement with the motion, but at least for us to consider perhaps once that money is received, to have some conversation as to how to best utilize it in a way that perhaps is consistent with how we're getting it done, for what purpose.
Well, considering we just hired an energy manager to look after costs in the district, it'd probably be a good spot to spend it. I guess my only concern, as much as I support climate change, or try to stop the climate change, I have some disagreement with the way some of them are buying their carbon credits. I stated once before to you that we're losing farmland in the northern part of British Columbia because you've got companies down in the United States that are buying up the farmland and plowing it up and planting trees in it in order to get the carbon credits, so they can still continue to pollute as much as they want. So this might be a good first step for us, but just so long as we don't start plowing up the fields to plant trees in it.
So I have a question with respect to, well, just this whole general issue, not maybe the charter, but I guess at some point in the future we're going to probably have to pay for some offsets. Do we have any clue what we're looking at, how close we are to being carbon neutral, or?
We will only become carbon neutral by purchasing offsets.
Any idea, does the government come out with any indication of what it would cost to purchase carbon offsets, or how we're going to go about calculating that?
There is right now, there's a spreadsheet, an online tool that calculates it when we enter the specific data that is requested. And it will calculate what carbon is, 20 tons of carbon is, our emissions. They have stated that in the first year of 2010, the carbon per ton charge would be anywhere from $10 to $25. They still haven't made that decision yet. And that's as late as last Friday, when we see that information. By 2012, it will be $35 a ton.
Any idea what we're in the hole on this?
Right now, we've been working to accumulate all of our costs. We haven't entered them yet. Comparable district size elsewhere, they're looking around $50,000. For some districts, they're $200,000.
So essentially, we'll be taking 2 teachers out of their teaching positions to pay for this really, without probably any money coming down from the government. We're going to have to find the money from somewhere to pay for it. That's why I asked that, so we can kind of get ready for it in the future. We know we're probably going to be faced with more cuts to our service to pay for this stuff. Or we can lobby the government. Either way. Okay, thanks.
So now you know where the $20,000 is going to go.
Yeah, $20,000 will just go right back. We'll only pay $30,000. Yeah. Right here. So, is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. Done it right now for you. All right, we'll forget later on. There, done. Thanks. Okay, next item is business superintendent's report.
Madam Chair, first item is the requirement related to physical activities, and the board's asked for what are the legal requirements, and you see the streaking label attached here, which is an application for curriculum or program guide order, and this is superintendent over this made up packages for each board member, and I put a copy of program guide in the box as well.
Any comments or questions with regards to this?
Is this the same package we got about a month and a half ago? Newer version?
Oh. I wonder how much carbon offsets they sorry, I turned off. Yeah. I have a question. So I see that, and I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it publicly anyways. Curricular requirements, kindergarten to grade 9, boards will, it doesn't say may, but it says will offer 30 minutes of daily physical activity as part of students' educational program. How are we doing on that? K to 9.
We're in pretty good shape. We have a district lead teacher who has been working in two or three different ways around that. One of them is to increase teacher capacity so that they themselves can offer that experience for their own students, and that's certainly been very successful. We've been running teacher workshops and having partnering in the elementary schools in particular. They've been able to sign up for some this time and some time to get a mentor to work through those things, and Richard working in coordinating that. We've purchased we've had to, of course, offset some costs in the district because we didn't physically have enough equipment, for example, to bring this in with the old guidelines that we had. So we've done some amazing things with bringing in some new equipment for our students and for folks figuring out what to do. So the K to 9 level, we're in pretty good compliance. The difficulty with K to 9 doesn't represent most school district structures in terms of organization. So for K to 7 or K to 8 can be some districts only K to 7. So at a grade 9 level, we have to have a different law because we have either semester grade 9s or linear grade 9s.
So that's where in that causes us the most difficulty in terms of 30 minutes per day. But we are not totally in compliance, as most districts in the province are not, because we can't physically organize 30 minutes a day in a grade 9 timetable for phys ed, unless they're in the semester where they have PE or on the rotation where they have PE. So like most districts in the province, we're not in full compliance in some schools on that. Because
Grade 8 as well, I would say.
Grade 8 as well. Grade 8 we have a little bit more room right now. Some schools are doing a bit of an exploratory that have a physical activity base. So it's not PE, it's physical activity. I think that's the important piece. This isn't about daily PE, this is about daily physical activity. So we've had some really creative things happen with some of the exploratory grade 8 where that counts for physical activity during the day. At the grades 10, 11, 12 level, as most districts in the province are, unless a student is registered in physical activity class, physical ed class, or they are part of a sport outside of the community where they're on a rec team or they're doing that kind of sport, it is more difficult for us to operationalize what the requirement for the week, which is why the province and most districts have come up with something that we were speaking to in the last meeting, which is the need for students to log their daily physical activity. So we've come up with a template, which is a hybrid, truthfully, of our own and a couple of templates that the ministry gave us that were really difficult to follow. So we've adapted them to make them as user-friendly as we can. So at the K-9 level, we're feeling pretty comfortable. We certainly in our district are probably, as you know, we hosted an island-wide daily physical activity forum for the island at the island's request of all the other school districts, because we're probably far along, if not farther along than most districts, because we have compassion and commitment in our buildings and others. But we're not in full compliance, and the ministry is aware that no district in the province is probably different.
Do they care we're not in full
They
compliance?
tell us that they do, and we ask for more resources.
And what do they say to that?
They tell us that we should be in compliance, and we ask for more resources.
I guess the issue that bothers me about this is the trouble that we're putting people to complete booklets and to keep records and to generally drive them a little more crazy with reporting requirements. And there's, there doesn't seem to be any real backing to do this, not from us, because I don't think that any of us would say that daily physical activity is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. It's just a record-keeping piece that's, I think I'd like to acknowledge, difficult for teachers. And yeah. Fran?
I just want to reiterate, which every time this topic arises, I think it should be mentioned, that I think there's a real concern that the ministry can require something that everyone knows we can't do, and because of that, require that students complete this outside of school. Because again, I think it's a concern that if something can't be attained within the school system, I think it's outside the bounds of government to make requirements, even for good things like healthy things like exercise or breakfast or healthy eating in the home. I think that what should be happening is education, not regulation on this topic. And because there are real concerns about the grade 8s and 9s in particular, because there are some semesters where kids aren't getting phys ed at all, and then even or getting it every other day.
I believe that the ministry, this has been in the works for almost 5 years now. And as we often think in education that after the initial first few years that it will sometimes we should have great profiles, and sometimes we hold our breath and it might go away. This one didn't go away from the very beginning. It was so very clear from the field they heard exactly that the practicality and the logistics of making it happen are the difficulty, not the philosophy and not the intent. The minister's response to Trustee Goldberg's statement would be, we don't expect students to do this outside on their own time. That's a decision that a school or a school district makes because you don't choose to structure this inside your system. And of course, the difficulty is that there's the district in the province, except for those that run linear to be practical, reasonable, logistical, to allow students to take those other elective courses that they feel they need or that they want to take. We don't have the ability to, and the infrastructure to operate this on a daily basis. And that's the dichotomy between what is intended for the ministry and what we need to implement in practicality in the system. This sparked, if you recall, the conversations about, well, there's another gym on every school site. That was one of the initial conversations. Just build another gym, and we could probably have a pretty good shot at getting the flood. Of course, the resources are not forthcoming to build another gym. The provincial response at the senior level had been to allow students to either choose phys ed, they can run it up if they can take that inside the timetable, and if they don't, to be in compliance by logging their activity. The ministry would tell us that we're making that choice.
Danny?
And I guess I have to say, it's the problem that they created at the ministry level, because when I went to school many years ago, we had to take it up to grade 11. And if I remember correctly, it was somewhere in the late 80s where the Minister of Education removed that requirement from the senior schools.
Anyone else? Okay, maybe if we have any further questions or comments with respect to this topic, we could take it up at a liaison meeting at some point in the future, if that's okay. Thanks very much for the report.
The district capacity, the overseeing on page 22 your agenda document, and this chair is intended what he wants to do in a similar time, but I'll just briefly overview the document and you can take it from there. One of the comments we've heard from the board is how can we come to understand capacity in our district school by school in a more clear and coherent manner that takes into account things like where are classrooms used for learning with special education, or where the kindergarten exists and where does a multi-purpose room exist. And so Alan Douglas has gone through this document and just regrets tonight he's unable to be here. And what we did was we took every school in the district, and this isn't a perfect document, but I think it's a much better view of the district on the whole from some previous submissions we've had. We worked sort of left to right on the capacity of the school overall, assuming that there would be 40 kindergartens in one classroom in the AM and PM, so 20 in the morning and 20 in the afternoon. And then adjustments to capacity indicates where a classroom has been used for another option, for example, daycare, or MPR, meaning multi-purpose room, where that's been a classroom converted to a multi-purpose room or a daycare. The minus 25 reflects 25 students is the general calculation for one classroom. Then we put the current enrollment in the school and their projected September 09 coming enrollment, and we use the term functional capacity being the capacity of the building that we believe, given its current strength. So if you take Airport, for example, the school has 14 classrooms, which would be 350 students. It has a kindergarten room, which would add 40, so that would be 390 would be their total space. We use one classroom for a daycare, so we take 25 off, and so we see their functional capacity of 365. So that's the structure of the whole document. I know there are a couple cases where we can see errors to correct right away. One, actually, we go down through, I think on Cumberland Elementary uses the example on page 2, it's the way we've listed it there is a bit confusing. That the beginning capacity should read 290 and not 315 according to our calculations. And then as you can see across, that 290 that Mr. Douglas has listed there includes the portables, which I don't think we want to include in our capacity. So the true capacity is the 290 minus the 25 for the portable, which is 265, and if that reflects its current stats, and 265 being very tight in that building. I see that there is no functional capacity. So I welcome the comments from the board. One of the things I shared with the board chair, for example, is that we're happy to expand this to include things like there's many multi-purpose rooms in the school, or the school has a medical room that's designated and it does not. And so you can continue to watch the document evolve. But we basically reduce the capacity in the district very substantially. actually going this way, and in most cases, it basically reflects where a classroom is being used for multi-purpose or learning systems or functions.
Yeah?
I have one actual question and one question about the baby. What is no MPR mean? I just so my question regarding Zaney, I presume, when the capacity is 1,225, you have the projection enrollment for 1,200, you have on here gym space problems and field issues, which I guess you're below capacity, you're still having problems in that school, but other ways. So I'm just wondering, how can you justify that and what kind of solutions you have for that? Because when I look at that, I see a problem with low capacity, yet you're still having issues.
And something like that, the 1225 reflects, and in all of the cases above, it's a good example, it reflects the classroom space. It doesn't reflect necessarily gym space or field space. So that's what to rely on for that number. When we say gym space problems or field issues, that's where we take the comments from the school that they're finding is hard to find adequate gym space and field space, and give them the population at 1225.
Pedestrian question around how we're defining classrooms. Is classroom what I think the average person would view as our classroom? It's got a blackboard at the front. It's meant for that, as opposed to a room that has kids in it where lessons are taking place. So is it one, the other, or both?
The definition of classroom really comes from, for our purposes, from the original map of the school, and then on the architectural drawings from the ministry at the time of construction, they list different categories of rooms. Generally, a classroom is about, like in Chuck, 75 square meters or more, and multi-purpose rooms up around 110. So they list you have this many general instruction classrooms, this many special ed rooms, this many multi-purpose rooms, but the classroom is about 75 square.
So it is what the average person would imagine or remember as being their classroom. That's what it is.
And specifically designed for instruction, like I say, with blackboards at the front.
Okay.
Fran?
Just wanted to comment that I think it's good that we're moving in the direction of talking about functional capacity and not just capacity based on pencil and paper readings of classrooms. But I think we need to delve deeper and to get a true sense of space issues. And looking at Brooklyn Lazo as an example, it's technically below capacity in terms of the concluding cell of the chart, yet there are pretty major issues because of the division. So, for example, in terms of spaces where kids need quiet rooms, that needs to be at both sites. As I understand it, for example, at Lazo now, they're using the vice principal's office because that is the only space. And other issues like the first aid room is really a bed in the library, which is shared by 2 school districts. And then there's also the 55 student classroom. So I think we just need to be careful about reading the conclusions without analyzing what's really happening at the individual schools so that we can better understand what people's issues are.
Corey?
Valley View is a concern. We know that seems to be the area where military families move into. They're right on the capacity, the top end of the capacity spectrum. We're taking 2 portables away. Is that correct? I know at their school growth plan meeting, there was talk and concern about a need for a computer lab. Are we taking that into consideration at all? If so, we would need at least 1 more portable if we are going to do something like that.
Through you, Madam Chair, and really to answer part well, as you delve deeply into these, it's really important to recognize that even the enrollment in the school, like the grade structure, as far as how many kids in each particular grade from year to year will affect the capacity, especially with regards to kindergarten. So, with respect to a computer lab, absolutely Valley View doesn't have 2 computer labs. You have the ability, that's where it's really this board's call, you have the ability to remove 2 of the portables on site, perhaps 3, but you might want to leave one and have it be a computer lab that fits into the balance of, well, if they're declining in enrollment, computer lab and then exercise other options like portable lab. And just a little bit further into answer question Mulder's piece. For example, the way we're doing the Brooklyn structure for next year is the double classroom. We're planning on using the learning space, and we're going to keep the grade 4s at Brooklyn because they're already there at 3, and that alleviates the space at Lazo, and then they don't have to use things like the vice principal's office as a medical room, and that's the way we're going to balance it out in the coming year. But it's back to the point of every year you have to look at these numbers and see how they go.
I guess for me, I view this as a good starting place, this document. It's sort of been a concern of mine in the past that we have to, as a board, ensure that there is adequate space for all the things that need to take place in a school. And so, using Cumberland Elementary as an example, the number we've been using for quite a few years, I guess, for the capacity of that school is 315. Yet this year we had 265 students there, and we didn't have enough room for them. So to me, I don't think it's an inefficient use of space that's happening. I think there's a problem with the capacity figure. And so what I would like to see is this report go out to every school and have every school community look at their line and sort of talk about that. Is that enough space for their school? Is there something missing here? Should there be a classroom pulled out for learning assistants or whatever? And when I say send it out to the school, I don't mean just send it to the principal. I would like to see it go to non-enrolling teachers at the school so they can weigh in on it. I'd like the QP folks to weigh in on it because, a lot of them deal with kids perhaps with autism that need to find a quiet space with the teachers and the principal. Of course we value what they think, but I'm wondering if there's any support from the board to have this go out to the field for some really meaningful feedback. I don't think there's any urgency for us to adopt any numbers or anything tonight. To me, this is a working document and a good beginning place. So, just wonder what you all think of that.
Absolutely. What I'd like to know is actually, when you apply the class size provisions, exactly what the school can hold and what it can handle.
I can tell you that for Arden. I figured it out. It's the nominal versus operational capacity. In Arden, actually, depending on the grade configuration you have in there, you can take their number and decrease it by probably about 30 spaces, depending on the configuration.
I have a question regarding Cumberland Elementary's projections in September. The 267 you have on here, is that the grade 7 classes being used for Cumberland Junior? Is that what the grade 7 class included there?
I'd have to check. To be managed, I believe it's the K-7 structure in place.
Okay. So the other question I have is, strictly the grade 7s that are going from Cumberland Elementary to Cumberland Junior, we're not considering using any of the other grades like we have this year.
Different discussion, that's for later on, and sorry to cut you off, but
That would be the capacity.
yeah. Tom? And Craig?
I just want to follow Susan's suggestion and just broaden it to invite opinion from you, Sherry, and you, Jordan, around the practicality of doing that, sending it out to a broad range of folks. Again, not wanting to, I like the idea, but I'm also sensitive to not wanting to sort of seize you with a task that's maybe problematic.
Maybe one suggestion is to take it to the CDC liaison, people liaison, if you can ask them for how you go about that. Because I think it might be hard to decide what to do with the feedback. Everyone wants more space, so then if you get that as feedback for Tuesday, you can start with the liaison.
Karina and then Brent?
I actually think the numbers need to be tweaked a little bit too, because everybody's using Cumberland L, so I will as well. I don't think these numbers are accurate. I don't think there are 10 classrooms. I think the 10 classrooms includes the kindergarten room. I think there are actually 9 classrooms, a kindergarten room, and the learning center. And that 2 of those classrooms are actually quite small and so it would be unsuitable for, say, your intermediate students. So I think just looking at numbers of classrooms is not an accurate portrayal of what's going on.
Physically walk the site and count the number of classrooms that Cumberland Mill is an issue of design. And that's his biggest issue. And my understanding is that the director got us to walk the site and specifically looked at that. And there are some unusual small classrooms designed inside the building where there were some classrooms that underscore were turned into certain partitions and they were made into learning assistance rooms that are awkward and so they don't look classroom-like at all with rock shaped floors. My understanding was that he confirmed that there were 10 classrooms in one building. So we can check that.
And I'm just using Cumberland now because I'm familiar with the facility. I wonder if there may be other schools that have.
So the original argument that we projected the initial capacity to, as we did the very first column, was the actual on-site local knowledge. What is the functional capacity of your school? Just because a piece of paper says that it's this, what can you really hold in the building and what really works very possible. So that's my understanding of the original report that we gave out, something like those numbers appear to be the same. That was going room by room, deciding if this room was an all-purpose room or if it was a non-enrollment room, if this was a classroom that held a division, which is like a regular classroom. But we can check.
Fran? Just to pick up on a comment before about portables, about Valley View has 4, needs 2. I had understood at the discussion that we had about cross-boundary applications that we would allow cross-boundaries to the extent of our existing space, including existing portables. So my concern would be if we take away portables, then we're not able to fulfill that idea of allowing cross boundaries to a certain standard.
Jordan? We met, the discussion with the board at that time was meet the cross boundaries that we had received at the time, and if there were portables that were still empty, my belief from the board was lock them up, close them up, get them off site. So we're still operating under that assumption. So if there was, through the cross-boundary process, enough students that wanted to go that took up a portable, the message we were hearing from the board was, please fill them up, but once you're done by the staffing timeline piece, then that's it, remove the portables if you can. So that's where the computer lab piece would be a different point for us, if we want to use that.
Cross-boundaries over, but how full are we? Like if we get 20 kids moving into Valley View, we have to bring back a portable? Like I'm just concerned about doing this prematurely when we're so tight.
Sure. We're operating under the assumption that we wouldn't be removing any portables until the fall. We basically would say that the school is full. Like if 2 students wanted to cross boundaries of Valley View right now, just making up the scenario, and we knew that this would be opening up a portable, if they're cross boundary in, we would say, no, we're full, go to Aspen or from each of your next school, and we would look at it then as September 30th, and if the portable would be basically at that time, we look to basically just come up with a process. That's the type of.
Okay, so I don't think I'm really hearing anyone saying that, okay, this is a definitive report, we're great with this, there's more, I think people are in agreement, there's more work to be done. And I have to say, with due respect to you, Tom and Jordan, I don't really think that this is the work that our employee group should be tasked with. I think these should go to each individual school site. Personally, I hope that our employee groups encourage their representatives at the site to become really involved with this. But I want to hear what the school thinks personally, not what, a sort of a global, the CDTA, no sense to them, thinks about this issue. I want to know what Miracle Beach thinks about the space available to them in their school. So I'm still hopeful that someone perhaps will make a motion to send this out to each school community for some feedback.
So I'm not going to make that motion just yet.
I knew you wouldn't.
But how I understood it and interpreted it is that it's the first step. It's not bringing the liaison to the be all and the end all, to really inquire about very much what process, what
Anyone else?
So I'll move the motion.
What motion?
Be specific. Request information from the individual schools as to what they feel their capacity is.
That's probably good.
Pretty
Flesh it out more. Well, we can flesh it out in discussion more. Okay, thank you. Anyone want to speak to that? Things I would like to know, like from Valley View, for example, is do they think that they should have a computer lab in one of their classrooms or in one of the portables and leave the portable at the school so that they can have a computer lab? I wonder things like the available special needs space at, I don't know, Royston, is it adequate? Is it functional? That sort of thing.
Timelines, we'd like to put a timeline on this so that we get it back in a certain time frame and what time frame would work for most people. So that would be something that I would think that we should attach or back there. So it's not floating out in cyberspace forever.
So I'm fine with the motion. I think we ought to be a little more specific about what do we actually expect to happen. We've declared or we've suggested that this is not just a principal, is it something that we expect the principal to lead? Who owns the process on site? I think that we need to at least provide some guidance to management as to who they send it to. In my view, what's being asked for, I think it does make sense that it enters the school through the principal, and that they take it upon their good judgment to pull together the parties that you referenced and others to answer a series of questions, some which may come attached and some may be just information that they choose to share. It's important to them. Using this as a springboard.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I agree with Tom, but I also want to ensure that the actual consultation takes place and that the principal just doesn't sit down and do the whole job himself.
The principal's not the one teaching in the class every day or whatever. I think it's, I agree. Anyone else?
And I'm just wondering if the board wants to wrap with that some sort of clarity around your position on portable. Because once portables are on the site, many schools will come back and say, please keep them. And we have this for space and that's for space. It just might help them to have a little bit of a flavor for where the board's going, that, the desire is to remove or not. Because if you say, you've got a portable on site, you have an option. Some people may read that as you have an option to keep it, just as long as you say, we can use the space. Once portables are there, they tend to sort of grow legs and roots, and not legs, but roots. And so just provide some help for schools in terms of, is that space you wish them to consider in the capacity as they read it here, or is it space that you don't want them to consider?
And then?
Portables will be used as a last resort to accommodate the overcrowding at schools, in my opinion. They should not be considered as part of the capacity of what they want to do. It should be based on space included there. To me, the cost boundaries of portables is with the exceptions of rule 7 for September. We want to maintain that with that this build in the Highland or then that issue with the high school cost boundaries. We have to have that maintained. But portables should be not maintained as routes. They're the last resort. They're there for when we absolutely need them.
Dan, did you have your hand up?
Yep. And I think they should grow legs and march right out of this district because the students need to be in the building and all their equipment needs to be in the building, not trucking across the field there through winter weather and stuff.
For me, whether we use the ones that are there or not is a completely separate question than what is the capacity of the school.
So is it fair that here I just read that part of the feedback may be please do not include your portables as part of your capacity of your school?
Yes, that's correct. Oh, look at that, 7 nodding. Like those dogs in the back of the car, or something like that. Okay, do we need further discussion on this item at all, or? Okay, so Debbie, can you read the motion back, please?
To request information from the site regarding capacity.
Okay, so is it pretty clear what that means?
Just wondering who is the feedback going to and with what timeline?
come back to the board as a report through management reports would probably be reasonable.
Maybe.
I would think if something is really urgent about this in your estimation, the next board meeting, or maybe 2 board meetings from now, are we okay with a couple of months? Yeah, better to do it right the first time, or this time. Yeah. Okay, all those in, No, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. I just would like to take an opportunity right now because sometimes we've had comments from the public with respect to how our meetings run, and it isn't, like 3 minutes a person and then everybody has their say once and then we vote. What's happening here is that we're having a real discussion in public that we haven't had behind closed doors. So that's what you're seeing is this thing sort of develop before your eyes and before our eyes, and so that's why it isn't sort of quick, 3 minutes each and off we go. So then that brings us, thank you, that brings us to the next issue with respect to Paul Puntis Park.
You'll see on the list here at Puntis Park, lists a number of uses of the space as part of the public park of the school that is constructed with interesting design. I'll leave it at that. Many of us have been lost in it on multiple occasions. With the Aboriginal full-day K, of course, supporting French language, English language, and learning assistance. They support multi-purposes in many school does. One of the things we were working with up until about a couple of weeks ago was the belief that with the enrollment next year and the way that this affects the way the numbers are falling, was that they may need a portable this coming fall. Confirming with the principal on Friday that they do not, given the number of divisions they currently have. So the bottom asterisk bold underlined part is that this time, based on their current enrollment, they do not need a portable for next year, but it's something we'll continue on.
Anyone have anything to comment or question? Okay, thank you very much. On to student travel requests. Did you have anything to say with respect to those? So I'm just wondering if we could move those all as a block. Are you okay with that, Tom?
I'm okay with that, but not that I'm doubting Trustee Caton, but I just want to make sure that we in fact did do the Vanier. I've got the ISFEL same band trip to Banff from February. So did we do this in January?
I declare conflict, and I did not vote on it.
Every board should have a doubting Tom.
I just don't want the band set up in front of my house and complaining that we denied them.
Play some ACDC music. Okay, so would anyone like to read all
Move
three
the
of those?
recommendations.
Second, so that's all three as a block. Any comments or questions?
Just to recognize that 2 are in principle and 1 for final approval.
Okay, and I'd just like to say that I'm glad to support in principle some international trips. I realize that perhaps not all kids can come up with the money to go on these trips, but I think more kids can go this way than otherwise could have. And for me personally, I was one of those kids whose parents wouldn't have taken them on a trip like this. But I saved my money and went, and I think it had a positive benefit on my life. So I'm pleased to support these. A little story for you there. You want to debate the positive influence? Okay, I won't call you doubting confident. Okay, so all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks. Yes, thank you.
Simply keep the board up to speed in terms of the issue with the students at Cumberland Union who are annexed from Cumberland Elementary. I just wanted to provide more of the information about the things we're staying on top of and that works for both sides.
I have 2 quick questions. One is, how did the move go? Did everything get okay and we should just go forward and getting this stuff over? And everyone started. The other question I have is
next year, and I'll let you know next year what the plans are for next year.
So we didn't hear that part.
The plans for next year, Cumberland Elementary.
Is there a related question you would like
Well, I
wrapped
had
up?
some answers to those questions. I was at the PAC meeting last night, and afterward had a conversation with Jeff Mannix.
Okay.
I'll put one chance if that's okay.
Okay. Usually it would be maybe the superintendent.
Why, thank you. Actually, I think it's a matter of perspective how the move went. Some of the parents were, concerned that the move was made mid-year and that they felt the disruption wasn't necessarily good for the students. I think the teachers and the staff and the admin worked very hard to get things up and running, and are really working together to make that work. In fact, you can see where they've changed their bell schedule, and they're adapting as things come up, because as with any good move, there are certain things you can't foresee until it happens. As far as next year, the talk was that they are currently at 32 grade 7 students enrolled, class size being 30 without, unless the teacher consent, right? Right, and so Plan A, when I was talking to Jeff, was 2 7-6 class splits moving over, but it was pretty loud at the PAC that they don't want that. They feel that the grade 6s are too young to be over there, and so I think we as a board may have to reconsider the use of portables at Cumberland L. If the classrooms do in fact have to be 7-6 splits, that's probably we're going to have to revisit our idea of moving the students over to Cumberland Junior. I know that the parents of the current grade 5 students are going to get together and have a meeting to see what the consensus is, whether or not the majority of them are comfortable with the grade 6s being over there or not, and that they would then probably present that to us as well. So we have things to consider, I think, if it comes down to being 6-7 splits.
So I'm just wondering if perhaps we could also have a management report with respect to this. Is that okay?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
On some pieces, the most substantial one is we have 33 students in grade 7 and 33 students in grade 6. So this time, if the move was to happen, it would look like there would be 2 6-7 splits at Cumberland Junior with the annex over there. And of course, then the interesting piece for the board, 2 empty classrooms back at Cumberland L. Of course, one which could be used for learning assistance space, but that's going to be a position here in the board. But right now, 33 and 33. The only way to resolve that beyond this place, of course, would be to provide one additional staff member, so $100,000 cost benefit to the board to do that. So one of my pieces would be, the point of the briefing was to let the board know these are the things that are evolving. We're in staffing right now. There's, the students at Cumberland Elementary are still staffed at Cumberland Elementary. It's still treated as a whole school. It's not hard for us to come back a month from now and say, here's where the numbers are, here's a little more clarity. If these students have moved or changed their mind or whatever, and the board can consider it further at that time. Plus, we should have let in the final report and inspection of portable. So that's another option.
Okay. Are we still considering putting Strong Start in Cumberland now next fall?
The only conversation through your Madam Chair that we had was that if the board did move the 2 classes over and there were 2 empty classrooms back at the school and 1 empty portable that had been inspected, that the board could consider putting Strong Start in the portable, but we have been still at just a thought stage of getting in first.
I'm just looking through the minutes here to see what was the motion that we passed, because I think we gave you a fair amount of latitude to sort of make decisions with respect to what would happen in September. Oh, no, we didn't. It was pretty definitive. Okay, it was regularly moved and seconded that September 2009, grade 7 will move to Cumberland Junior School, but will continue with an elementary curriculum. So I guess I would be in support of moving this to liaison for further reports. I think we're going to have more discussions with regards to this as it develops. Maybe it's going to be at liaison and then at the board meeting again and then at liaison, whatever I think seems to make sense to support the best situation for Cumberland L students that we can make. Does anyone else have some comments? Okay, so you see the recommendation there is refer to liaison. Does anyone wish to make that motion or no? Okay, second. Any further discussion with regards to that? No? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And Montessori?
On to the next item. Again, board information, but just wanting, I've spoken to the board at some length about the Montessori program at our last liaison meeting, and just wanted to provide information about the current structure of Montessori, the things we're trying to do to attract qualified candidates, and again, that's a situation where we're just going to see how it evolves. We're at the very end there, we're basically, one of the pieces of the bright spots is that we're encouraged that we have some applicants that are external applicants expressing interest in Montessori. Of course, we remain to check and see whether they are indeed fully qualified. That's something just for the board to continue to monitor as we head into May.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, just so how is it looking for the fall, I guess?
The most important part of looking for the fall is that the candidates, well, one with such a limited pool that you're attracting, that getting qualified candidates will be number one, and getting talented qualified candidates will be number two. I think the board will be left with the issue about, if you're building a program that is specialized, what support structure would you build below that? Like when teachers get sick or teachers go on maternity leave, how do you plan to sustain that? Because you're attracting students into the Montessori program, they're feeling good about it, they're enrolling, but you want to be definitive in as much as you can about what is the future for those students once they start the Montessori program. And right now, it's year by year ad hoc in terms of seeing how it goes.
Do you have your hand up over there, Lori?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to refer this to Finance Committee, actually.
Okay, maybe could you flesh that out a little?
Well, it seems what we're up against is not the enrollment portion of it, it's lack of teachers. And we do have in there, we've suggested possibly training somebody, and it is at a cost. But if we can have somebody in the district that is interested in becoming a Montessori teacher, I'm for that. And it's going to the Finance Committee.
Any other comments? Yeah?
I support that motion. If we talk about a cost, it goes on that committee to flush out whether or not that is something that we can look forward to. So I support the motion.
Anyone else? You have to admit to having some reservations with respect to this. We have some difficulty with attracting other areas as well. So I would think that maybe we should look at this from a more global perspective rather than just Montessori, and sort of have the discussion in that way at finance, hopefully. French immersion sort of comes to mind, that sometimes it's not easy to attract teachers to do that, and we want to have a flourishing program, and so I wonder about that as well. Okay.
One of the things the board could do if you're looking at for that type of information is the director of HR could report to finance on which specialty areas we're having difficulty attracting teachers, because there are a number.
See, and I guess I look at this as French immersion is an established program. This is a program that we're trying to nurture and expand, and it is obviously a very positive and popular program. It's just meeting the needs with teachers that we don't have.
So I agree with that, but very much to echo Susan's comments, French immersion, while it is an established program, also has on a sort of annual basis challenges. In part having people in the positions, but also what's underneath to support them when they happen not to be available.
So I wonder about Jordan's idea, if we did vote to refer this to finance, if we could get the director of HR to give us some information that could be considered or not, to report back to the board, if you would be interested in doing that. We've seen a couple nodding heads. Okay, so we'll proceed with voting on referring it to finance. Any further questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Carried. So we'll go to finance. And I think it would be in order then to prepare a report. Thank you. Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first item is that district finance. That was actually a motion that the board wished to reconsider and was brought up at the last meeting. I want to bring that back, so it's there for you to reconsider.
I'll make the motion that the board, that a report from management be prepared for the finance committee outlining the estimated impact upon district finances that recent increases in fuel prices will have in the upcoming year.
Mr. Ibbs, do we need a motion to reconsider first?
It was given, you can work with.
Okay. Okay, so we'll put that back on the floor. Second?
Okay.
Okay, so anybody want to speak to this?
Well, basically because it's an old motion and the fuel prices changed significantly between then and now. And it's not felt that it's necessary that the report be there, so we should be voting against this motion.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great. Or no, it's not carried, it's defeated, sorry. Operating budget. Mr. Ibbs with the good news story for us.
So the purpose of the briefing note was just to sort of give a bit of high-level background for the board that we are facing some serious challenges over the next few years. A couple things to really note in this is that it's still estimates only. Like I was just trying to get into the ballpark of where our funding can be, particularly in that 3-year forecast. Right, there's still lots of maneuvering that would need to happen before you could sort of nail those numbers down. Interesting to note, we are in full funding for testing. And by that I mean the funding we get this year for planning year 09-10 is the same as the current year. So our decline is steep enough that that's what's actually keeping the funding up to the level it is. So just quickly run through the sort of 3 sort of major areas, I guess, of this. The projection for the ending of the current year we're in is looking for a deficit of about $580,000. And if we, the budget we have been building and working on, and we will present to the board later this week, has been a status quo with the adjustments for the decline in enrollment. So we've done about 27 staff down, just as that's sort of a normal process we go through every year. But even with those adjustments, we still probably run a structural deficit of about $725,000 in that year. And the third thing that is, of course, some concern is the Ministry of Ed, while they've given us the block funding, they also have some other funding that we get. Pay equity is one example of it. And it's still up to, there's still a potential that there may be further changes before we get to the end of this year. And by that I mean they may still make changes in April and May to our funding. So that's a concern too. So I was just trying to show that if you combine all those, there may be some significant changes from what we might have thought we were before. So as I mentioned in the briefing note, the board's going to meet actually this week later, and we also have April 7th set aside a partner group meeting. I'm just trying to nail down exactly where that's going to be, and tomorrow morning we'll be able to get that out to the field. At which point I will then make a presentation of all this material, plus more background information for the partner groups. And I will, of course, bring all of the other items that are referred to the budget as proposals for funding increases.
Any comments or questions? Well, I just like to say it's quite remarkable to me that we closed Union Bay Elementary, and then we closed Solom Elementary, and then we closed Comox-L last year, Village Park, and Glacier View. And we're still at a place where we have a deficit. And so it's pretty darn clear to me that there's a problem with the funding formula, because I don't think that you're wasting piles and piles of money, or neither are we. It's a problem with the funding formula, and I look forward to an opportunity soon to talk to the people that plan to run for MLA with respect to their positions on the funding formula, and see what they would do for the people in the Comox Valley with respect to this, because this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable.
On item number 3, which is on page 53, there's a short briefing note that I did. It's just, again, to alert the board that they actually, the current year we're in, usually you get a funding announcement of the capital project for next year. There was zero. Right? They approved some busing and some seismic for some other districts, but not for ours, so there is no capital plan announcement now. So what we're actually looking for is the 2010-11 one. They just recently gave us the actual instructions, so we've worked on those. One of the new requirements is what they call a project review, PIR. It's pretty in-depth, and the actual cost of one is actually between $35,000 to $40,000 if you did it up completely, maybe even a little more. So given the sort of reduced likelihood of approval, we're really only doing one of them, which would be the Vanny, which is still our old number 1. So when we get that done, we'll bring it forward to the board for consideration as submitting that as our next 5-year capital.
So that's the only thing we're submitting as our 5-year capital plan? That's the only thing we're submitting as our 5-year capital plan?
We will support, all the ones we supported in the past will still be on there as well, but in terms of spending the money on the PIR that I referred to, project review, it just doesn't look like we'd get an approval, so I didn't see where it would make sense to spend the money to actually get that up to. The ministry just will not approve without all that extra information that they have required.
Fran? I don't know if this fits in here or if it's somewhere else. I'm sure I'll find out soon. One item that's been mentioned several times has been the HVAC at Brooklyn, and looking at a way to tie down, if we can, a plan to do that soon. Is there any way to do that, as in maybe this summer?
Well, that's a separate right from this. So usually we use our annual facilities grant for the fairly minor projects. I mean, that's the way the funding is actually laid out. If it's not $1.5 million, the ministry doesn't fund it. And that one, in and of itself, the HVAC wouldn't amount to that much. I'm not sure we've actually put together the AFG plan for next year. I'm looking at Director Morris just to get a comment to make on that.
Madam Chair, we've committed a portion of it to try to finish Highland Secretary HVAC upgrade. We broke into 3 separate phases. The impact on the AFG. My understanding that the Brooklyn HVAC upgrade is around $1 million. We wouldn't have that funding available out of the AFG more than we will out there.
So where could we get it?
If I could just carry on. Well, this would be one of the interesting things we can talk about with the capital 5-year plan. If you want to put it back on as one and ask for under restricted capital, they may consider it. It's below the threshold, but we do have some restricted capital that they can consider if the board want to make that a priority.
Can you maybe remind us what the list is? Do you know off the top of your head?
The Vanny, 2 pieces, the seismic part of it, and
HVAC or something?
yeah, well, Lake Trail got 2 pieces. Well, Lake Trail is seismic and renovation as well. And the third one was?
I think it was Brooklyn seismic. Brooklyn seismic. Seismic and HVAC for number 3, Brooklyn?
Well, yes. So Vanny, Lake Trail, Brooklyn.
Okay, Fran?
So I think that we should, and I don't know, maybe we do, distinguish between things like HVAC, air quality, and seismic, because there are many schools in the district, in the province, on lists for seismic upgrading, and I understand that there is an established priority that's being set up already. But I think when it comes to HVAC, given that, now I'm confusing dates, but it's either a year ago or 2 years ago that air quality testing showed you need an HVAC now, and we're still here. So that's a concern. Like, I think it's distinguishable from the seismic, which is preventative. Not to say not critical as well. But if carbon monoxide is 2,000 parts per million and it's supposed to be 500 or 700, then I think we need to deal with that now, because that's not preventative, that's remedial, and I just think that should be a priority.
So what would be the best way for us to have a further discussion regarding priorities in this?
As I mentioned, once they get the PIR back for the annual, we would bring the whole list back in that time where we can sit down and make some changes to it if they wish, or bring up other issues. But the whole other, we haven't had a chance. I mean, as you know, there's a certain amount of flux in the district about exactly which buildings, are going to happen and what they're going to look like. So it's been pretty hard. So we have that bigger conversation. I was really sticking with Banny because it seemed to be one that was in the long-term plans under any circumstances.
Is it Brooklyn? Like, I never heard anything about Brooklyn not being on the horizon in the future.
You mean with respect to the discussion table?
Yeah. Yeah, because there wasn't anything in there.
I'm not sure, but we didn't mention that, if you were looking to fund the changes in grade configuration, one thing we'd have to consider is possibly closing their schools.
Something I wonder about is how quickly these PIRs can be completed, because, daily we're getting emails now from the provincial government talking about they're funding this $2.6 million band room at the school, and this district's getting $113 million, and what are we, chopped liver here? We're getting nothing. And so I would like to have an opportunity to put something in soon and see if we can't get a piece of the pie. They're in a drive right now to create jobs and so forth, and I think they should create jobs in the Comox Valley, not Cranbrook.
Again, I'm sure. We've actually made a couple of pitches to them about Banny being almost shovel ready. We're trying to get actually with the PIRs. That's what we're trying to get.
Are you ready with that soon?
Well, I suspect within 2 to 3 weeks. So if the board would like, once they get that, I can send them notice and we can have a very long discussion about.
The RIT drops April 14th. It would be good for us to be able to call them soon and see if this shovel-ready project is when they might fund now before they dissolve the legislature. I don't know if anyone's interested in pushing Len to get this information done as quickly as possible to see if we might get a project here or not.
If I could, actually, we will get a submission in. We will do it on the Banny. We have to. There's a timeline, right? It's May 15th, so we will have that back to the board. We'll look for the discussion to happen.
It would have to be in before April the 14th, probably, for it to be considered right now.
Honestly, I don't know if they're going to consider any between now and then.
Costs nothing to ask, maybe.
Well, we have.
Yeah.
I think to be fair to our capital project director, he's been pushing it very hard.
And they're saying no.
Let's just say they find it easy to ignore.
Too bad. They're not ignoring every school district, so, okay. Anyone else have any comments or questions with respect to this? Okay. Move on then.
Number 4 is actually 3 separate applications there for that school community connection program. There's one for Courtney L., Cumberland Community Society, and Cumberland Junior as well. So if the board is willing to support those, we should make a motion to approve and support. I would submit all of the applications at the end of the night because it has to go before March 31st as well.
Motion to support approving applications in principle.
You motion to support all 3 of them?
Yep.
Second. Okay, any discussion with respect to this?
This is dovetail with the previous approval that we made, where we used language such as to the full dollars available, and the full dollars were $24,000, so essentially it would be 24 split 4 ways. Is that how it works?
It could be. I mean, here's what my take was actually, I think they have their own criteria that they're going to use. It is the local government, organization. Remember that exact name they go under. Just making the call. I was thinking more of just submitting all of them and seeing which ones to support. Rather than sort of us trying to put one in front of the other. I think they're all worthy, of course, different ways. So see which one.
I have a question for you, Len, there with respect to the Cumberland Junior application. It looks to me like it's just put a letter in that all the required paperwork doesn't seem to be there. Is that a barrier, or am I looking at this incorrectly?
It is a bit of a problem. I did get the letter of support on that. So, from the association. So, yeah, I would have to submit that and tell them I submit the proper.
So I got to be honest with you, I wonder if maybe we should just sort of drop that one off, and they could, personally, maybe they could apply next time around if it, well in advance what the timelines were. So anyways, that was just my thoughts. Don't know if anybody else had similar thoughts. Tom?
So I'm fine with submitting it, and as you said, it's a different group that will make the decision. I don't support the notion of flagging it and saying, hey, in a week from now we'll send you the correct stuff and get you sending what. So I would be comfortable sending what they have and make a decision. And if they, in fact, get approved, that's a lesson to be learned for others. Not a good lesson.
Korean?
Yeah, my question, I don't know if you guys can answer it if I'm reading this incorrectly, but on the application form, number 2, application number 1 of 1, please note that only 3 applications will be submitted from each Board of Education service area. Does that mean that only,
Where is that?
it's just whatever, any one of those forms that they filled out? So you can look at page 60, for example.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't notice that.
So does that mean that we can't submit all 4 of them? So we would have to pick anyway 3 that we would be willing to.
3 that are completely filled out?
So we have a motion for all 3.
All 3.
So it's been seconded.
So we could amend it.
We'll have to amend.
Amend it to delete one of them.
So I'll suggest an amendment. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
a friendly amendment to delete 4.3. Something to use secondary for application. Based on the points raised.
Yeah. Anyone have a seconder to that? Okay. So we're going to vote on the amendment. Is there any further discussion though first? So if you would like to delete 4.3, vote yes. If you would like to leave it there, vote no. Okay, so all those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so now what we're doing is voting on whether to submit 4.1 and 4.2. Is there any further discussion with respect to that? No? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks. And Linda Marie is not here.
I'll do those.
Thank you.
Retirement, so Sybil Sinclair, teacher at Cooney Elementary School, retired effective June 30th, 2009, 2 years of service with the district, and she was certified as a teacher in 1989. Shirley Robbins, EA Program Worker Life Skills, Mark R. Isbell Secondary, retire effective June 30th, 2009, after 34 years of service with the district. And we also had 1 resignation, and Cunningham, a teacher who was resigned effective June 30th, 2009, 9 years of service with the district, and certified as a BC teacher in 1999.
Thanks. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks. So board committee reports, I'd just like to report out briefly with respect to board governance. The board has made intentional efforts to improve our communications with partner groups and the public, and we've made a really big effort to attend PAC meetings and so forth. It didn't stop there. The board is also focused on trying to make sure that we have good working relationships with our senior management, and to that end, we met last week and had a good discussion for 4 hours. Which was catered by Karina McClellan and her mom, who made us some great soup. And coming from that, I think we took away some pretty good tips and better insights in how we do business, and we're going to have a Board Procedures Committee that some people have been conscripted into to help us figure out how we can best get the business of the board accomplished in an efficient way, and we look forward to further discussions and information about that. Okay, on to the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, we met on Monday, March 9th. Nothing that's going to require any recommendation from the board. We discussed the operational review and came to the conclusion that management consulting firm should be used. And Secretary Treasurer Gibbs is going to be proceeding with an RFP. And the other one we dealt with was Helby Hall, around disposal of it to the Helby Hall Society, and Secretary Treasurer Gibbs is ready to administer bond to get the details of what we can do with it, what we're permitted to do, and whether we can meet the request. And we'll receive it.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Policy Advisory Committee, John?
On the form of my report, there's 2 policies coming to the board for adoption tonight, and there's one information. The first one is District Parent Advisory Council Policy 1020. Motion that the board adopt the new policy 1020 as presented. Even though District PAC is in the School Act, it's just acknowledgement that they are part of our educational committee and group and partners, and we want to respect them. So,
second recommendation.
So just, we have to send that out to the field for 60-day consultation.
Under our policy adoption, we actually can adopt it for meeting. We have to make a choice on that, so we actually don't have to go up to 60 days. It's in our policy.
On new policies?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I'll trust you on that. I was under the impression a new policy had to go for 60 days.
We double checked and read it.
Okay.
And adopt it, so the board's decision is adopted or not.
Okay. Any discussion with regards to that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And the second one is regarding disposal of assets, and that is just to align to the ministerial order that came down to that our policy that was in effect now just is in line with the new policy on the disposal of assets. So we're moving to adopt that one, please.
Motion to adopt. Second. Any discussion? Fran?
I think it was today, but I'm not, anyway, recently that the Basic School Trustees Association lawyer has, given the complexity of this ministerial order and the difficulty interpreting it and translating, I think this is the reasoning, translating it to a policy, has put together a very comprehensive 7-page template for the policy, which goes further than ours. So I would suggest, despite all of our hard work at Policy Committee, but even more work done by Lynn before it even got to that stage, that we look at that and include or analyze what's in the more comprehensive document and the chart. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, Lynn.
I mean, true, we did in rewriting the policy look more for simply to make sure we capture what was necessary. I think, and I didn't get a long chance, I only got that other document today from Judith Clark at the ECSDA. I just thought a lot of it is, if you agree to kind of get into about changing our policy, to agree to that, you're locked in. I think what we have here is something that gives you, I guess, less restrictions in place. The more sort of prescriptive you become, the tighter it gets. I just caution from that side, right? That more sometimes isn't better in a policy like this.
Jen?
My understanding is the policy as presented tonight meets the criteria set up by the ministry in disposal of assets. It gives us flexibility that we have that flexibility, but within the constraints. And my understanding, forgive me if I'm wrong, this went to a lawyer and I did that, so a lawyer did look at it and agreed that we would be fine if this ever came up, so I would recommend we adopt it.
Just a question, when did it go to a lawyer in the last couple of months?
it was actually when I first drafted it, which was actually
Yeah.
quite some time ago, October, I believe.
Okay. Fran?
Even though my first choice would still be to look at it further in the event that the board decides not to go that route, I would agree that it, from my perspective and from the policy committee's perspective, did meet what we needed to do with respect to ministerial order. There were just a few small amendments that I would just like to mention that we spoke about for the changes, but for an independent school 3 times. There was also for educational purposes was the phrase we spoke about at the policy committee meeting that seems to have been omitted in the most recent type draft.
And where was that?
That was where the underlining is under 1B, under lands and buildings, and then 1B, 1F, and 1J.
So, I'm sorry, what are you
So
suggesting?
wherever it says or an independent school for educational purposes, we spoke about that. That was just a typo.
For education, you want for educational purposes to follow for an independent school.
Right, because to mirror the wording in the ministerial order. And then there was also we discussed, and then maybe Janice, you could, or Glenn or Tom remind me, we spoke about under item 3A and 4A, the district officer. We spoke about replacing that term with the current staff person that truly is responsible for that. Or
I took it just in a generic sense of an officer of the board, right? So I guess I don't see that as really a change, if you wish.
Yeah, my understanding is district officer is generic, so that was my recollection on that.
Yeah, it was raised in the context of, it's not a phrase that we often use, so it's, who do we mean by that? District officer is not a phrase that we use. I understand it.
I mean, the thing is, it sometimes changes responsibility. If you have a bit of work like that, it can actually change through different people for years. It's kind of hard to nail it down with the specific title and probably that. Otherwise, if you revise the policy, that's that responsibility change.
or the staff person, just to keep it generic.
So what came from the policy
My
committee?
understanding is it was district officer, so it was just, we talked about it and that was my understanding, that if the decision of the board is to take it back to the policy committee, we read it, that's fine, but it's just decision of the board, my understanding. Other than those things regarding the educational purposes, which I actually missed and I'm very well glad, everything else is what we talked about.
Okay, so first I'd just like to poll the board. Does anyone feel that we should refer this back to the Education Committee for further work, or do we want to do the further work here?
Education.
Sorry, I meant the Policy Advisory Committee.
So no to the policy advisory committee, I don't think the changes are substantive enough.
Okay, anyone else?
We can always revise the policy in the future if you find something that's gaping in there, so it's not like it's cast in stone forever.
Do you guys want to send it back? No? You guys? No? Yes? Okay, so I think the noes have it, so probably we'll just carry on with this motion. It looks like there was one revision required to add for educational purposes 4 times? 3 times?
I totally missed that.
So then the only issue is the district officer piece. So, just to clarify, I think that what I understand from what you've said is that the district officer is not meant to be a specific position, it's just generic, but it's not a term that we usually use. So perhaps district personnel could be put in there. No?
Sometimes responsible for learning resources is the director or the
Okay, thoughts? Yeah. Superintendent or designate? Okay. So that's just two things that would need to be changed. And then we would be in compliance with the new ministerial order. Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor that deals with this then. So, all those in favor?
Sorry, clarify which motion?
The amended.
The
The amended, as amended by our discussion. Do I need to put that line in the motion, or is it? Should, okay, so somebody amend the motion
I make
then?
a motion that the board adopted the revised draft policy as amended tonight.
Okay, so on the amendment to add as amended to it, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so now as a full motion that the board adopt revised draft policy 841 as amended tonight, yada yada. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And the last bit of information, just for board information, is that we're looking at redrafting and reworking our student travel policy, 1631, and we had a really good discussion. We're partway through it, and we'll be hopefully working at the next policy committee meeting along with some other issues, and looking forward to bringing that to the board, hopefully at the next board meeting. And motion to adopt my report as
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Weber, anything to report?
Well, the report is attached for the notification before asking for committee to receive the report. And just apologize for the transposed words in the third line of the second paragraph. English is my third language, and apparently wasn't mastered any of the languages that I speak. Just to remind the board that our next upcoming education committee meeting is on the 14th after Royston.
6:30. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks. Board appointees to other bodies or structures. Tribune Bay Outdoor Education Society, you want to speak to this one, why that's there?
Madam Chair, it was just at the last society meeting, we noticed that actually the 4 individuals that are named as directors on the Tribune Bay Outdoor Society hadn't actually been appointed by the board, and that has to happen. It actually is a bit technical in nature, but we also wouldn't be covered under a director's liability if we don't have this motion, so it's just mandatory to do this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Let's give a...
I have a very brief report. I went to the Civil Council as a representative, and there's a couple of interesting motions that were passed. One has to do with new school construction, has to do with the economic stimulus that's happening right now. Hopefully we'll get some funding, as we talked about earlier tonight. Upcoming AGM is happening, and there are actually 7 motions on there to deal with funding and the formula of cost pressures. And I just wanted to give some trustees some information that I picked up really quick. These following school districts are reporting the following shortfalls, and this is on the website. This is Vernon, $2.5 million shortfall. Central Okanagan, $3.5 million shortfall. Delta, $3 million shortfall. Vancouver, $7.13 million shortfall. Saanich, $3.6 million shortfall. North Vancouver, $3.2. West Vancouver, $1.3. Prince George, $4.4. US 1, the 901, $6 million. And when I saw that, I'm like, what's wrong with the funding here? So between 2001 and 2008, the Ministry of Education has given us, things like distributed learning. They've given us the actual cost of these programs is $92,957,445. The actual cost, what they gave us, was $673 million, leaving a provincial shortfall of $249,957,000 in the last 9 years. That's how short the ministry's not funded provincial education. So there's an election coming up, and the one thing we talked about is May 12th, we have provincial elections. School boards still go to their elected, their MLAs, who run their MLAs, and ask, what are you going to do about provincial funding? And when I saw these numbers, I went to all the district websites, and I was astounded. I did not really realize that funding was incredible. So my report is that hopefully with the election coming up, that we can talk to who's going to be our MLA and who's running for MLA and find out what they're going to do about our education funding and get the money back into the cost of the belongs. That's my report.
Thank you.
Second.
Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, new business, Ministry of Education directed administrative savings. So you see the recommendation there.
Motion.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, just to, I guess maybe I'd like to speak to it a little bit, just to flesh that out a little bit. So we're going to have to save some money, I think, I don't know, $150,000 or something like that. Is that right, Len?
Well, actually, no, there was, unfortunately, a change of communication. They originally had talked about a 3%, and then it became 6%, and then it came back to some general letter asking us to cover the trip administrative and move as much as possible. So there's actually no figures attached to it at the last letter.
There's no figures attached, but there could be. So I suppose it's a good opportunity to take a look at what they mean by administrative costs and have a list of what is an administrative cost. And sort of what tops my list is BC ESIS. I wonder how much that could be attributed to administrative costs, and if there would be some cost savings that we could get, that sort of thing.
Fair enough. If I can answer the BC ESIS part now.
Sure.
Because when we approved BC ESIS a few years ago, there was an understanding that I reserved the local capital to make sure that we'd be able to carry out. I believe the end figure was closer to $450,000, even a bit more. I can't remember the exact figure in my head. But, so that is still reserved what we have to spend today.
So I guess my question is that since we have this looming deficit, we're kind of going broke here. This does not seem to be a popular program, and we might be able to save some money in our capital monies for something else. Anyways, that's just what comes to my mind. I don't know, maybe everybody else on the board is a big fan of BC ESIS and full steam ahead, I don't know. But that was one of the items that I thought might reasonably be listed under administrative costs. That might be part of the list that we could look at for cuts.
So I like the idea of at least posing the question and helping us come to some clarity about what falls within that envelope. Because even if it's do the best we can, a little raw from the best we or a tag a percentage on it, we ought to know sort of what the playing field is.
Anyone else? Anyone else care to get some questions answered about BC ESIS, or am I out there by myself?
No, I support you fully on this.
How far down the road are we? Is one of the questions, and
Yeah.
what's going to be the alternative if we jettison it?
Well, I mean, that might be what comes from a report. It might be, yes, this is an administrative cost, but, we're like way up to our bottom lip. We're committed, and that's it. Too bad. We're going ahead. So, but that's the kind of information I'd like to get back. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks. Next thing is the draft policy that the CDTA Social Justice Committee has forwarded to us for our consideration.
Refer to the policy committee.
Got a motion?
Yes, it is.
Seconder. Okay, discussion.
Good motion. How's that?
Good motion, and I support referring it to the Policy Advisory Committee.
I support it as well. I'm just wondering, with our policy 3070, the non-discrimination policy, is there any way of doing a continuum of it? This gets more specific. I don't know if it could be a continuum of it, or if it should be a separate policy all in its own.
I think that's
I
perhaps
imagine you could discuss that at the Policy Advisory Committee, and the Social Justice Committee. I think they have offered to come and speak to the committee if you want to invite them. I know they're open to that. So, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we have correspondence to deal with. Sorry. Oh, yes, I had it penciled in. Danny wants to do it.
I was contacted from Packet Finish, and there's been quite a bit of discussion around the fact that Since Queens became a an elementary school from a middle school, the playground equipment that's there is not sufficient for the primary students. There is absolutely nothing there that the majority of them can even reach in order to play with. So this is playground that's more designed for the intermediates. So they have requested some assistance in attempting to get something in place for next year. So my recommendation would be to refer this to the Finance Committee for discussion. Go back with the recommendation.
Second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now on to correspondence. So what I'm hoping to do is kind of move some of these things as a block. So if we move some things as a block, if there's a particular item that you think needs to be pulled out for further discussion, we can do that. Or if there's an item within the block that you want to comment on but leave in the block, that's okay too. So I'm thinking that items number 1 through 5 could be moved as a block.
There's no motions there. It's just for information.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm an idiot.
Read them.
I bet y'all be reading that in the paper on Friday. Maybe in the cartoon section. Okay, so board information. Anyone have any comments or questions with respect to those first 5 items? I blushed, you know. Okay, fine. Item number 6.
Motion refer to liaison.
Second.
Okay, so anybody want to speak to that? Just an item of correspondence in recognition of unpaid work that people do. This was an issue at a couple of conferences I attended last year, and I think it would be good for us to have an understanding of what happens locally. Hopefully we can have a liaison meeting soon. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. What else? We have some other things to refer. Number 7, refer to the Education Committee. Second.
So just for clarification that we haven't set the schedule yet for the 9-10 school year, and the intent is that when we do have our education committee at Brooklyn, there will be an opportunity for the parents or the PAC to speak to this item.
Fran?
These are risk rescue kits, which I had the opportunity to see at a PAC meeting at Brooklyn. And these are, for anyone's information, after the board meeting, there's a sample one at the back that the PAC co-chair has brought. But these are, it's a system of very efficient, relatively cost-effective method of organizing critical medical information and life-saving medications. And I was personally very impressed with seeing it and was wondering if there was a quicker, easier way to disseminate the information as opposed to delaying it for a year, just so that people who were interested could have a look at it in different paths if they wish to purchase it, or if it's something that the school district wished to look at in greater detail. And I was wondering about Paul Berry, in his role, if it made sense to refer this to him or have him explore it further.
Just one thing, I think PACs are always, and they should be encouraged to refer items like this to DPAC, for DPAC to consider. I know we've had a liaison meeting with DPAC, and they, said that we should actually encourage people to send things there so that there could be a district-wide perspective. Schools always have the opportunity to forward things through to senior management, and usually they are better equipped to understand how the logistics of these things would be implemented in a school. So, some thoughts on that?
So is that the suggestion direct to as opposed to through the board?
Which?
Well, and so using this as an example, this rescue kit is something that the Brooklyn PAC can bring straight to this building and give it to the board and or resident.
And DPAC as well, to see if there's districts, so that parents are aware district-wide. So I think it's maybe a quicker way, but still, I think it's good for us to go to the school. I don't think it'd be a year, maybe September, for us to go to the school and see it in action right there. Does that seem logical to you? Yeah?
We could refer to those folks into the emergency preparedness committee and share them all there. Take a look at it, a couple of within one.
Does that need a second motion? We have one motion on. Should we make a second motion
We
to
could
do
just
that?
expand it for the education committee and senior manager. Want to amend? Okay, second the amendment? Second. Okay, all those in favor of amending it? Opposed, carried. Okay, so any further discussion on the full motion? Refer to the education committee and senior manager?
I was just going to say that EPAC does have money and funding, so I think that, that's an avenue to go is to take it to EPAC. I mean, they are getting some money and funds, and they can be one of the advocates of going out in school districts, so I would recommend an area that they would go to also.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next item of business is, again, Brooklyn Elementary with respect to playground equipment. Second. Is there any discussion with regards to that? No? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then we have a item from the Comox Valley Youth Music Center with respect to 2009 Summer Music Camp. Recommendations refer to management. Second. Any discussion with regards to this? Yes?
Okay. I think this one is a bit of a timing issue. They need an answer fairly quick. I mean, they know our normal practice and policy is to not allow people to spend the night in the building, and our policy is pretty clear. But I don't think there's time to allow, to sort of refer to management. We'll obviously probably say no to it, and then it'll come back to you. So I think that's why they go to you directly in this case. And just an aside, I mean, certainly the management last year, the CYMC improved greatly over previous years.
Yeah.
So I guess the concern that I have, and it goes back to a few years ago when CYMC rented the spaces of Banyan, there were some issues and concerns and some controversy because of the school district over some unfortunate damage that occurred. So I guess I would be kind of leery in light of that. So I'd like to know what kind of assurance do we have that anything that may occur would be replaced by them, and how do we count for stuff like that? So that would be the concern that I would have based on past years.
As I mentioned, it's a completely different group, that is running the organization this time. I'd feel pretty comfortable that they would make good on anything that they broke. And they have actually at times in the past, too. I know you're speaking about the incident that happened quite some time ago, but even in the in-between times, even though sometimes there was some other issues, that was not one that we had trouble.
So I have a question as well. I think we do need to refer to you because there are a lot of logistics involved, but I wonder, maybe they overcome the piece of billeting kids somewhere else. Maybe a church is okay with having them use their basement or something. Is there any issues with respect to them using some space in a school and accessing our kitchens? That piece I didn't.
Just off the top of my head, I would say if there is a facility in there, like a kitchen facility, it would be fine. It's just a timing issue because our policy doesn't allow them to spend time. They do that for that part of the problem.
Probably. Okay, so I think you could probably adequately discuss it with them. Fran, did you have something?
I was just going to say that I'd be concerned if we're going to make a motion contrary to policy that we don't have enough information to do that now, regardless of their timing issue, because I don't think we need to be pressured into doing that. We have to look at it in one area.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so refer to management. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then item number 9, I guess we could have moved that one too. Huban Park, trees for tomorrow application. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item number 10 from Steve Stanley, President of the CDCA, with regards to the budget planning for next year. Finance, please. For the finance, second. Any discussion? Just, I'll throw my 2 cents worth in, which I usually do. It's just that we're approaching an operational review as well, and I wonder if any of these topics are something that we might consider. I'm rolling into that, so the Finance Committee can look at that. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item number 11. Just to state that we are a couple of minutes before 9 o'clock, and I would like to have the public have an opportunity to have questions and inquiries at the end of the meeting. And I'm wondering if we could extend the meeting by 15 minutes, if anyone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to extend by 15 minutes.
Second.
That's all you get.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Glenn. Okay, so item number 11, Bible distribution and school board discussion. Fran?
I note that Mr. Aikman makes a distinction between making available ancient writings for study and demanding an interpretation of response, the first being acceptable and the second not being acceptable. And I agree with both of those points. Where I disagree is in terms of his definition of what making available means. For me, making available means having these texts available in the library, and for inclusiveness' sake, having a diversity of texts available in the library. And this is different than going one step further than having that availability and distributing one type of religious text to the exclusion of others. And I think this is where we get into trouble according to Section 76 of the School Act, which states all schools must be conducted on strictly secular and non-sectarian principles. I went one extra step to get the exact definitions, secular being not overtly or specifically religious, non-sectarian, not affiliated with or restricted to a particular religious group. So I would agree absolutely with Mr. Aikman that we should be making available all types of ancient writings for study in the school library, and maybe we need to explore whether we do, and maybe we already have that, but to distribute to one to the exclusion of others, I believe is contrary to Section 76 of the School Act. And I don't think it's a choice. I think it's a legal imperative to maintain the distinction between the secular and others.
Anyone have any other comments? Okay.
Well, I guess this refers pretty much back to the Gideon Society and the Bibles they provide for the grade 5 students. And it's not actually the school that's distributing them. And their process, other than handing out the permission cards to the students, they, the last time they were allowed, took care of getting cards back, distributing the little Bibles to the students in a manner that was away from anybody who did not request it. So I don't know whether that falls under your definition of distribution or not, because it's not really the school that was involved.
Except if the school is a vehicle, then to me that's distribution, and that I think that there should be alternative to the school, alternative means of distribution outside of the school. And I don't think this is as simple as a personal opinion. I think it's an interpretation of the School Act.
I think they tried to distribute them on the sidewalks and tried to get them removed from the properties.
I have no idea how sidewalks fit into the picture.
So I have to say, I agree with Fran's interpretation here. I think we do have to be careful with respect to this. We would not give access to every single religious group that there is out there to distribute their written texts. But I do believe that they do need to be contained in our libraries, and I know that they do have religious or world religions taught at school as part of their curriculum, and I think that that's a good thing, that kids should be exposed to different ways of thinking, and it's healthy, and it's what we should be doing as a public education system. But I think it should stay at that. I'm not in favor of allowing anyone to distribute any religious texts or have access to our sort of database of students to do that. Janice?
I reread our student access policy before I came tonight, and if we're going to do that, we're going to refer that policy back to the policy committee to redefine it, because the way the current policy sets up, it does not preclude the way that we interpret it. So I think that if we're going to stand on that basis and not get any other letters coming to the board, we're going to have to revisit that policy another time to make sure that we are on the right page on that. So there is something in there regarding access to students where materials is distributed via parents, not by the actual teacher or the principal. So I think that if we want to go that route, then we're going to have to maybe move a motion that will come to the board the next board meeting. We'll have to revisit that policy.
Any further comments on this? Does anybody want to make this a motion, or do you want to just leave it as board information? I guess it shouldn't be. It should be acknowledged, received, and filed. Okay, so second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll go to the questions and answer period of our meeting. Anyone have any questions? Media will ask later anyway, they usually do. Sorry. Yeah.
I find it amazing the board played all of the funding shortfalls of the board of provincial government. When this board should accept some of the responsibility for turning down the $10 million sale, we cannot continue to rely solely on big brothers to solve our financial woes. Does this board deny the impact to funding enrollment this have on our district?
No. Okay.
I should have worded that a little bit differently, but I guess you can get away with it.
Okay, anyone else with a question? Joy?
I'm just wondering if you are going to start entertaining having students come in to give their opinions about this possible reconfiguration topic. If this is going to be something new, because I'd like to know there's seniors out there with much different perspectives, so you're going to start having them come through to give their 2 cents on it, or?
Well, to be honest with you, we did have a discussion with respect to that, and I think it's a good thing for students to see that they can have an impact on democracy. You might remember that actually the students from Lake Trail came in and presented us with a petition last year, and so we thought that this would be in keeping with that. I'm not sure that we're going to let every group in the door come and make a presentation to us, but we really felt we should support students with what they do.
Just want to clarify, the Lake Trail kids didn't come to a board meeting. I think there was a little bit of picketing going on outside of the school, and the petition was brought in, but there was no presentation in the board. If memory serves me right, I don't believe that.
My recollection is that they came in
I just wanted to clarify, if there's a group of seniors at Benny that want to come in here and tell their version of how they feel about this configuration and needs and not being added, if that's going to be the way it goes.
I think Mr. Weber wants to answer this one.
Well, I think it's a very fair question. We have, as you know, the discussion on Thursday, which will sort of set the table or not. And I think as part of that, should there be any discussions or any attempts to move forward, the board would need to be very clear around what the rules of engagement are, and we need to address that.
Just for your information, we have other groups of students sending in online feedback. So the leadership students at Vanier have been quite active, so I'm glad that we're hearing from students. Anyone else with questions or inquiries? Go ahead.
Well, just based on a couple of emails that we received from Trustee Goldberg and Dr. Tinney, was that he would speak about our playground equipment situation at the last meeting.
Go ahead.
Thanks for your question. Director Morris, he'd be willing to give some information on the status of that.
Madam Chair, February 6th, the playground for Lazo Brooklyn was ordered. The total time would be 4 to 6 weeks delivery. We received it, I believe it was March 15th during spring break. At that time, we had a reduction in staff because of injury and medication. So we didn't move to go ahead with any site preparation at that time. Today, one of the staff members did come back. So our staff were at that site, assessing it and starting to plan on site preparation. Site preparation will take, if we have enough people available, depending on the complexity of the scope on that slide there, anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks before employee can begin to be installed.
Does that answer your question? Okay, thank you. And then someone?
Hi, yes, I'm Diane Maxted from Comox Youth Center. So on campus, I attended the school board meeting, see you one day, and that's great. And I just, excuse me, indulge me for a second, I'm glad to see the young parents taking such an interest in being here. We all did the same thing, and my kids are in a school now, except for one that's visiting with me from Korea, and the kids that come from the valley and beyond to experience music together in the summer, which we've been doing for 42 years. And the reason that we asked and for special consideration this year is that the parents of our students and the faculty themselves have concerns about the kinds of accommodations we're able to provide, and we want to do something better and something that will allow us to build both a partnership with the school district and confidence that the children are and the young adults are very, very welcome here. So we want to provide the best atmosphere that we can. We've had a great working relationship at Aspen School and last year at Bethel Middle School with the people there. And I mean, we would be happy to meet with the board to deal with any concerns that anyone might raise, and quite rightly so, to be very, very careful of such a beautiful school as ISCO. And so the thing is that we have people registering right now, and they're saying, well, where would we be? And so that's where Mr. Riggs mentioned the urgency. So if we can, whatever the best way is to talk about setting a meeting to answer any questions and meet any concerns drawn up together, that's what we want you to do.
Thanks. I think you provide a great program for kids. I think that from what I'm getting from the discussion this evening is that maybe the time constraints we have a process that we would need to undergo to change our policy, which I would guess would be minimum 3-4 months. For something like that, we have to have consultation and so forth, and when we're contemplating using our buildings overnight, I think that does warrant the level of consultation with the public. So I don't know where your discussion will get you. It's going to be difficult for you this year, and but hopefully Len will be able to work out something where you'll be able to work with us in some way this year.
Well, we'll be happy to work where you have time to talk to us about it. We don't want to do best that we can.
Yeah, best equipped would be our senior management. They know these things inside out, and yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, thanks for all of it.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do, actually. Anyone else with comments or questions? look at that. 3 minutes to spare with Mr. Weber, so I have a motion to adjourn. Second, all opposed? No. In favor. Thanks.